Waiting for the computer. The
It is
computer.
live.
It says you are live. I'm so happy to be alive, and I'm so happy to see you today, Fatty.
Yep.
Because
Happy to see you too, Rick.
well, I mean, so much as I mean, Christmas. I mean, it's been busy. The time of year is well is busy, but
It's
but you
busy.
left us. You left us. With the fact that you got COVID. You got the virus.
Mhm.
You weren't feeling well. And I want to know how are things? How are you now?
Well, don't worry. Today I will not be like sucking on lozenges in your
You won't be
ears
stuck in line. Okay, good.
and drinking tea while we're doing this
Yeah.
because I am much better. Thank you for asking. I did end up having, I think maybe I was too daring.
Oh, okay.
I did end up having a couple of rougher days after we spoke, but
Okay.
nothing beyond like body aches, fatigue, just the need to rest.
Right.
And, low ibuprofen took care of the body aches, and I'm better now.
Good.
It was, but I have to admit it did get a little bit, it wasn't just a walk in the park, but it was like a couple, like a cold, like a mild flu. And, maybe I still sound a little bit nasal. I'm out of it. I'm technically out of my quarantine, I think as of today or tomorrow. And, I'm alive. I'm alive. I do have to say that the isolation and the quarantine part was by far the hardest part.
The quarantine.
The quarantine, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of brain fog, like all colds and illnesses. You get a little bit stuffy, and I attempted to like work
Oh
the
yes.
first day, and I was like, why can I not think of anything? And I was like, yeah, because I should be like resting. I shouldn't be doing this.
Hmm.
So that part of it, alongside with the isolation and the, having to test, and there's conditioning around, the whole COVID thing and the fear that's going around and the numbers and the news. So I really, try to stay away from that as much as possible, but I did get sucked into it a little bit too, right? Because I just, I was trying to protect my kids from getting it, who, by the way, ended up catching it as well.
Oh dear. Yeah.
And the initial reaction was a mix of anger, not so much fear. I wasn't so fearful because having it, I didn't feel like it was gonna do anything to them. But there's stories, and
Mhm.
you get down
Yep.
the rabbit hole. It could be a possibility. But it was more around the fact that that was then gonna put them into another 10-day quarantine, and just very difficult for them too to be away from their friends, their dad, all our Christmas plans, and our Christmas itself.
Yeah.
Just we couldn't eat together. Like
Yeah.
I could barely cook. So it wasn't the same. I have to be honest, it wasn't the same. But for what my children cared about, the gifts were there. They were wrapped. Somehow I managed to wrap all these gifts. Yeah, it was not easy, but like I just wrapped them, and I gave myself the grace of not making them, as there weren't that many bows and things on them, but they were wrapped. And that's kind of where I cut myself some slack, right? And didn't expect, like a full on,
Yeah.
spread for them. They don't really care. They were happy that they didn't have to eat their vegetables this year. Like I just gave them whatever they wanted, and they were
Yeah.
happy they got
Yeah.
to pick the menu.
Yeah. Can we
So,
have
but
that picture
yeah,
here? No, it's beautiful. I mean that like and I like what you said about giving yourself a break.
yeah, I had no choice, right? Here I
Yeah.
am. I'm the one that has COVID. I'm the one that's isolating. I'm the one taking care of them while I isolate from them, which I'm not going to get into the details of how tough that was. It was very tough. Eating away from them when our masks were off, and then like just making sure I'm not touching anything, and like couldn't taste their food, while I'm making it. It's just like There were many challenges. There were many challenges. So I had to give myself a little break because I just didn't have the strength to do things the way I
Yeah,
normally do. And really be honest with myself. What do they really care about?
yeah,
Is this spread for me? Or just because it's Christmas, I need to have this, 400 course meal. Do they really care about this? They don't. Literally after 5 minutes, they were up and on to their,
yeah,
playing with their toys or whatever. Like
yeah,
those are not things that my children really care about. Again,
yeah,
they were happy. There were no broccoli to eat. There was nothing like vegetably, like there's no vegetables this Christmas. I
yeah,
get to open my gifts and just eat like baked pasta. Like in a sense, it really worked out for them.
yeah.
So lightening the load when you're in a situation where there are other factors that really kind of put you in a situation where you don't really have a choice, right? In that
No,
sense, it's
no.
smart.
Well, it's smart, and in this case, you had no, you felt you had no choice, but like given our subject today about how can we make 2022 more enjoyable, not necessarily better,
Yeah.
but more enjoyable. I think actually you hit it on the nail of the head, or the head of the nail. I don't know,
The nail on the head.
the nail on the head. Thank you very much. Um, Around giving yourself that mental break of sort of like I had a bit of that myself, because there's always I always have a series of I want to get things done for Christmas. There's I'm crafty. I like to make things, but I tend to overload that list a little,
Hmm.
thinking I can have it all done. There was a time I actually used to do renovations in the house about a week to 2 weeks before Christmas, and it would drive my wife nuts because it's sort of like, you're gonna paint now, like, is it gonna be finished before Christmas? I was like, it's like,
What was that your way of motivating yourself or pushing yourself to get it done?
I don't know, but I'm glad I kind of like these last minute things. But I noticed that there were there were a couple of projects that I had on the list that were part of Christmas. And as I just started, as the day came closer, I just kept asking myself the same question: what's more important? What's more important? Right? And
Hmm.
what is the most important thing? And I, as I got closer, there were things that I said, you know what? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to be like, it's not going to ruin Christmas, right? And I just allowed it to sort of go a natural flow. Like, and some things just went, I didn't worry about it and dropped them off. And I could sense it being more enjoyable because
Hmm.
I wasn't worried about that part of it. I was like, oh, or beat myself up. So I think you hit it when you said, like just giving yourself that break, that mental break, to like, you don't have to have it all perfect. You don't have to have all that kind of stuff. So I think that's important.
As well as like really, well, giving myself permission to, right, give myself a break
Yeah,
and not rehearsing all the things that I didn't get to do and that it wasn't perfect. And that, that's very much a part of it because sometimes we give ourselves the break, but then there's the guilt still keeps us busy
oh
with the what ifs and how it could
yeah,
have been and all the things that we didn't do. So I really kind of did that. And at the same time, and I know we were talking about this earlier, I did still have moments where I felt really low mood because
yeah,
it was a series of things, right? Like from the actual physical illness to the inability to do the things that I normally do to stay healthy, right? To all the plans changing, to the isolation, to being worried about my children. Like everything just came crashing down. And I had a moment where I was like, yeah, I'm in it. I'm in this rabbit hole. And now I'm going to have to like walk my talk. what would I do if I was coaching someone? And I'm not gonna lie, it didn't like happen right away. I didn't get into that right away. I had to be in that moment of suffering for a little bit, and like in
Hmm.
my get into victim and get into hopelessness and helplessness. And then I was like, really? Am I really feeling this way? And then, yeah, I'm really feeling this way. I had this whole like dialogue in my head.
Mm.
And and then I was like, just do what you know that works. Release the feelings. Allow them to,
Yeah,
come out.
yeah,
Feel
yeah.
them, cry. I cried. I just released them. I practice one of my techniques that works wonders. I
Hmm.
just express them.
Yeah,
And it's amazing how quickly you shift into a completely different state of mind once you just let them out.
yeah,
Even if you don't come up with any solutions or anything, really, you're just like letting all the things that don't even make sense sometimes, as you speak them out loud, you actually hear like, did I just say that? Okay, that didn't really make any sense. So, all right, really primal right now. Okay, let's keep being in this
yeah,
state.
yeah, yeah.
And then I woke up the next morning feeling completely different, a completely different perspective, and,
Absolutely.
and I walked away from it, right? Just released it. I was like, well, I still feel low. I didn't judge it. I'm like, time to sleep. Just go to sleep.
Yeah,
Enough, right? And it just moving those feelings out of my body made such a big difference. So
yeah. And
listen,
and that's what we've often said, in a few of our other episodes around, what you resist persists, right?
mm-hmm,
So you allowing, the feeling to express itself allowed that energy, right, to, rather than building up and building up and building
mm-hmm.
up, you allowed it to release. And yeah, it never looks pretty. It was never designed to be that way. But it's interesting how you were able to, as it was happening, you automatically started to see the change, and you also started to, oh, wait a minute, that was me, kind of a thing. So you were in and out. It was, yeah, remarkable. Yeah,
It was such a, just really put things into perspective on so many different levels. Like, really gave me this before and after
yeah,
perspective. Like, oh, is this the way I used to feel?
yeah,
Like, is this the way I was when I was in this victim state and just like not feeling hopeless and helpless, And look at now, I do have the tools though, right?
mhm, mhm.
So, and how having that, like, having had actually a really, really amazing week right before that, I had this like really contrasting
Yeah. Yes.
shift, right? In
Kidding.
like an emotional and mental state. And I
Yeah,
was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I have gone really far in my life in the last couple of years in terms of where my mental health is and the way I just really face life and deal with things.
yeah,
So listen, it was a really good and I would say valuable experience. Did I love being in it? Not one bit.
no, no, of
It
course
got the
not. No,
worst
yeah,
out of me.
yeah,
Got the worst out of me. I was
yeah,
not happy to be in it. But having been in it just recently, I'm like, yeah, I have the tools to come out of this. This stuff does really work. And look at this. Look at how the same life, the same reality can feel completely different when your mind drops the ball, can we say,
yeah.
and like falls
Oh
into
yeah,
the rabbit hole.
yeah,
It's amazing, amazing.
yeah. And
And
it happens so innocently, like, yeah,
innocently, yeah,
yeah,
so innocently. And I was gonna say, when you were talking about, like what you resist persists, like, we tend to think like, if you repress the feelings, they're just bubbling up. And there's a sense almost that they just, you maybe like you build up some anger and it just stays that way. I don't think that that's normally the case. I think the more it stays there and bubbles up, and the bigger those bubbles get, right?
oh, oh
To
yeah,
the point that they just pop, right? Which is like the reactiveness or an
yeah,
explosion of anger, or, whatever, anxiety, whatever it is, right? So the sooner you express them, the sooner you pop those bubbles, And the sooner you and the sooner you have control over how they come out. So
it, it's like a pressure cooker, right?
like a pressure cooker,
Right. The longer
100%.
you leave it in there, it builds up pressure and pressure. But what we forget is we have control over the pressure valve, right? We
We
can release
do.
that pressure,
We do.
right? And it all comes from the feeling, right? When we're more in touch and in tune with our feelings, we notice it sooner. It's like, oh, something's bubbling, something's brewing, right? And yeah, no. So I mean, yeah, it's interesting. And if anybody has any comments about any of this, please put it in the chat. But I've noticed, since being involved in coaching and personal development, is that at one point in my life things were very spiky, right? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
spike this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the number of years, call it a practice or whatever you want, but having a deeper understanding about my thinking and circumstances, I find that it's more of a sine wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you know what, I got my down periods, but I
Mm-hmm.
ride them more gracefully,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when I'm in a high mood, it's like, yeah, I enjoy it more. Like there's more joy in the high mood. And then yeah, it'll come back down again. But it is a ebb and flow, and it's grace and being thankful for the very moments, the good moments.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you just pointed that. I love that description, right? And it's been the same for me. It's not as sharp, but this one was a sharp one,
Well,
and I hadn't had any like this in a really long time. So it
yes,
was
yes, yes,
wow, such a reminder, right?
yeah,
And also I also gave myself permission to do another thing that I haven't been doing, like to kind of be negative about it.
mm,
Like when people ask me how you're doing, I was like, just be honest about it. I was
oh
like, you
yeah,
know what? It kind of sucks.
yeah,
I'm actually not doing that great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then watch the reaction.
Yeah,
Go, oh,
yeah.
oh,
Silence, crickets. And I was like, and I already know that tends, or like, sympathy, right? I got sympathy too.
yeah,
And that's okay. That's what I needed in that moment. But I was like, be very honest with yourself, even when you cannot be the highest, you know, uh, self that you want to be based on my standards. Be okay with not being in that place. Be
yeah,
okay with like being negative. This sucks and I'm not liking it,
yeah,
and I'm really pissed that my plans got all, like ruined by this thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm angry right now. And I know it's going to pass.
Well, and that's the key. That's the
Yeah.
key, right? Is that we don't stay angry forever. We don't stay mad or sad or forever, right?
Yeah.
But when we do have that experience, if we honor, I've been telling you, like honor the experience, like go live the experience. Don't be afraid of the experience. Like there's it's not saying there's anything wrong with you either, right? You're just having an experience. It might, you don't have to like it. Nobody says you have to like what you're going through. Um, but it is just part, and that alone brings those waves down, right? So and so it's kind of interesting, although we didn't really put the question right out. And this question I put up on the board there comes from psychiatrist and author Robert Holden, who was coaching another coach. And they were talking about, like, I want to do better next year. I want to have
Mm-hmm.
a increased business. I want to have all this kind of stuff. And it was very results kind of focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he asked the question, he said, well, what if we flip this around a little bit? What if we made next year the most enjoyable year yet? So in other words, forget about whatever might happen. Let's just focus on making it more enjoyable. And he asked the question. I've seen this technique used in several different ways. Some people call it like future projections, things like that, where you transport yourself into the future and then say, okay, now you're 12 months ahead of time, you've just had the most enjoyable year ever. What happened? What made it so enjoyable for you? What have you done? What was different in your life in December 2022, kind of a thing? And and again, I'm just going to say it, it's all on you. You said three really good key points around how to really make an enjoyable year. Give yourself a break, kind of a thing.
The grace of a break, yeah.
The base, right, like, and maybe the to-do list could be a little bit smaller. That's for me. um but you're just basically saying, like, allowing the experiences to happen. um and uh,
Being okay with it, even in its
exactly,
negativity, right?
exactly, yeah, yeah,
So I like this question that you put up here. It's like, you and I are twins. So,
absolutely,
because
yes,
this is exactly the way, when we decided to talk about New Year's resolutions, there was a little resistance that came up for me. And
yeah,
the way I am, I'm like, if I'm resisting it, I'm going to go right towards it, right? We're going to talk about this. And the reason why I had resistance was because I don't believe in New Year's resolutions per se, the way they're generally perceived, right?
yes,
I'm going to make a list of, I'm going to start the gym, I'm going to start dieting,
yes,
and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I don't believe in that. There's a
no,
reason why they don't work. There's a reason why people fall off right
absolutely,
away, right?
yeah,
But this goes right into helping you like visualize. So the way I see the New Year's resolution is
yeah,
like, where is my arrival? Where do I want to be? Right? In more generic terms, right? And really taking this opportunity in the new year to kind of look at that plan. That for me at least, obviously, like my coach, I've done this work of really like looking at my life and really thinking about what are some things that I want, where am I, what are my like end goals, and where do I want to take my life, and what kind of impact do I want to have, right? So in a more philosophical and like really in-depth level, right? But what I see that the new year could be a good opportunity is to just look at that plan and see how far along have I come, and does this still align with me, right? Does this still align with who I am today? Because we make these plans, right? And then we keep working on ourselves, right?
yeah,
And things in us change, but we still have the same plan. And guess what?
absolutely.
Sometimes when you stop and look at it, it's like, I don't think I really want that anymore because I am not the person that made this plan a year ago, 6 months ago. Sometimes if you're really working hard on yourself, it could even be like 3 months ago or
Well,
from
when
one
you
session to the next, right?
and when you think of where you were at the time you made the plan, it seemed like the right thing at the right
The right,
time.
exactly. It
Yeah,
worked for the me,
yeah,
aligned with the me then.
yes,
But
absolutely.
is this still where I want to go? Am I still in the mood for this journey, right? Or do
Yeah,
I want to slightly shift it? What do I want it to look like today? So to me, the New Year's resolution, the way I'm going to look at it, and actually I will, because I like to, you know, walk my talk, I will actually do this. I wasn't planning to do it, but I will actually do this because now that I'm talking about it, I really see the value in it. I
and
will look at those
the
plans.
world is listening, by the way.
The
So
word is missing. I know. I will look at those plans and those goals and those visions that I had and see, is this still what I want?
yeah,
Right?
that's a big one.
Does this align with who I am today and where I feel like I want to take my life and the impact that I want to have? And so that's the way I'm going to look at this New Year's resolution, as an opportunity to just review your
Yeah,
plans and see if they still feel right. And it's okay, right? Like,
it's okay to
and
change.
it's
It's
okay
okay.
to change them, right?
Yeah,
Redirect them. And I think oftentimes that is the very reason why some of these plans don't work, is because we make the plan and then we put it away and never look at it again. But our GPS is still going in that direction. In the
Mhm.
meantime, something in us has changed and it doesn't really kind of want that plan anymore.
I
So,
I use a three strike rule kind of a thing, particularly in when I'm in my workshop. And so just to give you an example, like I give myself three tries. Like if something, if it starts to feel like a struggle, I just kind of keep going again, right? And then it's like, okay, wait a minute, I'm dropping things, I'm making mistakes, I'm doing, kind of a thing. So I kind of give myself three kicks at the can, so to speak. And then I kind of release it. And I say, obviously this is not the time to be moving forward. And I love what you're saying about your plans, because that's kind of the same way. If I'm not in, and this is part of enjoying this coming up year, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then it's a good time to kind of reflect on, is that plan, does that need adjusting? Am I putting too much pressure on myself to get to an end result? And that's where I see, for me, I'm exactly the same way. I don't believe in a resolution of okay, I'm going to drop 20 pounds in 30 days or whatever kind of thing, where I'm going to go to the gym every day. What I want a healthy lifestyle.
mhm.
All right, so that's my intention, is to have a healthy lifestyle. How that shows up, it could mean so many different things. It could mean not having meat on Mondays, going more on walks, saying no to desserts. It could be, a number of different things, right? Um, but it is about that, being more open and flexible to how things are unfolding for you, because things happen step by step. You never get it in one big chunk, right? So plans need to be constantly adjusted. And I think the more often you do what you're pointing to in that self-reflection piece, is, and that's a really big question. Is this what I really want? That's a huge question.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
I don't want this, what do I want?
What do I want? And and the other common mistake I think that people make is that they load up that whole New Year's resolution list with things that they have to do, really difficult things that they have to change, right? They make it super loaded with things that frankly should be taken one step at a time, like you're saying, and over an arch of time that cannot possibly be the first month. So that's like one mistake. And the other mistake is to not mix up the list with like, what can I do for myself? What gifts can I give myself? Right? Like,
Mm,
in what way can I really make sure that that the integrity of my self care is always going to be there? Right? That
absolutely.
I am going to reward myself.
Yeah.
Right? Because just doing and having to change, those things are really difficult. Like, how are you balancing that, right? So if you want to motivate yourself to do something that's difficult, to make a change that's going to be challenging, how are you going to balance it? What are you going to give yourself so that you're also taking something,
And
right?
it's not a selfish act,
It's not
you
a
know,
selfish
in
act.
a-
It's
in a
not.
negative way. You need to be selfish in a way,
Yes,
right?
it's
Because if you're,
strategic.
well, we've said that, for first responders, like, if you're not looking after yourself, you can't look after your patients. You can't. And it's the same with everything. Like, like you are number one, right? You are actually the center of the universe, your universe. and and when you're balanced and well, you just naturally do well, and the world responds accordingly. So if you want to have a more enjoyable year, you really start to have to think about yourself a lot more, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised. Like, don't worry about, not serving the world, because you will serve the world, I think, in a far bigger way when you are balanced, because you will start to see where your skills and your talents are needed, right? And yeah, so that's huge.
You just show up much more powerfully when you gave yourself some pleasure, some care, some, like just something that you want,
Yeah.
right? Instead of constantly feeling that life is about doing and sacrificing and changing, that something's wrong with us, and
Yeah.
like it just really puts awareness on to, like what are some things that I enjoy doing, right? And how can I make sure that I incorporate those things in my life as much as all the doing list that I'm creating for myself, right? The hard work stuff,
Yeah.
the need to change something in me, because somehow inherently in that concept there is this feeling that something is wrong with us
Hmm.
because it has to be changed, right? So how can I make myself feel like I'm just exactly
You are enough.
right,
You.
right, and enough?
Yeah. Every. We all have what we need already. It's just clouded, right? I mean, I like to use my little you know,
You do.
right?
You do love using that thing.
This is your personal thinking. You don't have any clarity on what's real, right?
Do you
But
have two or three of those? That would show my state of mind a couple days ago.
exactly. But when the veil is uplifted, when
Yeah.
you lift it up and you actually see for what it is, right? It's but again, sort of reflecting back on the to-do lists, it's not necessarily doing more brings more enjoyment. A lot of times it could be doing less, right? It's and so it's you gotta find the balance, right? And how do you know the balance? How it feels. If it's
How
feeling
it
really
feels. Yeah.
mucky and struggling, right? Maybe it's time to sort of let go of that for a second. Just relax and just see what wisdom brings in. See what your intuition brings in, right? Um, and for me, like when I reflected on this question, I I I got the impression that what was changing, I was saying yes more often to the things that were kind of scaring me,
Mm.
right? Sort of like those areas where I don't know if I really qualify for that, but I'm going to do it anyways, right? And I just got a I didn't tell you this. I apologize, but it's fresh news. It's fresh news, okay?
Okay. You're
Um,
forgiven.
but there was a magazine that and it could be from a email or whatever. Anyways, but anyways, it's Brains magazine, and they're looking for contributors, and they came across my profile and they said, would you be interested in being a contributor to the magazine? And I said yes.
That's
What's the next
amazing.
step?
Congratulations.
Well, I don't know. I don't. They said you got to fill out a bit of a profile of the kind of articles that you wish to write and things like that. But it's just sort of like it's those little things, that
I love that. It would be so
my
amazing.
willingness to say yes more often. Um, that's what I pictured my most enjoyable year in December next year. Reflecting back, you know what? I said yes more often. Like I was saying yes to interviews. I was saying yes to this, kind of a thing. So, um, yeah, I was just, why not? Why not?
Absolutely. Why not? Because that's a very essence of surrendering, right? The reason why we say no to things is because it doesn't fit with the way we think it should be
Yes,
going,
in that
right?
moment, in that,
In that
yeah,
moment. But
yeah.
when you say yes to opportunities, I mean, obviously you're not going to say yes to an opportunity that doesn't feel aligned,
Well, it's
but
common sense, right? Common sense.
exactly. But
Yeah.
when you say yes to opportunities, even when they're unexpected or not exactly what you thought they were going to be, you're just allowing yourself to be surprised. Be surprised by something that you didn't even think it could be an opportunity, right? And who knows what's going to come out of it. And
Well,
be surprise yourself about yourself too, right?
and
when
that's the interesting part about it, right? Is
yeah.
because we have infinite potential, we have infinite futures ahead of us. The only, the thing that holds us back is really the taking action piece. Like, we can
Hmm.
think all we want, but until we actually take one step forward, when we actually take the next step, that's when the infinite possibilities come in. And that's why plans change, right? Because your path changes as you keep going further and you grow, right? You think you projected yourself, down a straight line,
Hmm.
right? But
Exactly.
it's not, right? There's minor adjustments here and there, and you might even find out that you had the ladder on the wrong building in the first place, that you have to remove it and put it on something different, right?
Or that by trying something different, you actually like that something different a little better,
Oh,
right? it's
totally.
it's it's really allowed to me, like surrendering, like yourself is also like allowing yourself to be surprised, right?
Very
And
much so.
seeing like that reframe really helps me with kind of contrasting it against I have no control, right? Because if I surrender, I have no control. I'm like, I'm gonna be surprised. Like I'm gonna allow life to surprise me with a gift, right? So it's the same thing. I have no control over a surprise, but
No.
it has a very different. It lands very differently for me, right? So and it's especially I also and this is an insight that I had this weekend too. I also realized that oftentimes it's easier for me to surrender big things once I felt really helpless about them, right? I'm like, okay, I really don't like the way this is looking. I know I'm projecting. It's not what I expected it to be, and I still hope for a different outcome that's more, in alignment with what I would like to have happen in my life. And I'm just gonna surrender it, right? Because there's nothing else I can do about it. And those are the moments where like the magic happens in my experience.
And there's another point, right? Letting go of the expectation, or letting go of the result, right? Like,
Yeah.
and and, and imagine what that feels like. Like, wouldn't that make life more enjoyable if you didn't worry about the results?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, for me it would
100%.
be, because there's so much pressure in performance. Like, you have to achieve this. Like, I remember being in sales, and you had quotas, right? You had to talk to 20 people per week, and out of 20 people you sat down with 5 people, and out of 5 people you made one sale. It was all, they told you, it was all math, right? And if I
Hmm.
didn't do that 20 people, I knew I wasn't getting that one person. So there was so much pressure. So it was like, I was so focused on the results, I wasn't having a good time. I was, it was you know, but when somebody had told me, it's like, okay, let's throw the results away. What is the actions that well, I need to just talk to people. Great. Just talk to people.
Yeah, just do the steps. Like put that
Just,
address in the GPS and just take the
yeah,
steps. Just follow every turn. It's
yeah.
literally like a GPS. Is it redirecting you because there's traffic? That's the best way to go in that moment. And
Well,
that's the
yeah.
thing.
And don't worry if you screw it up, because
You
I
can
don't know
do
how
a
many times
U-turn.
I have turned left instead of right, even though I have a British female voice on my GPS. And and, and well, I figured if I'm going to get yelled at, I might as well get yelled at by a foreigner. But, because I love accents. I love accents. And anyways, it's so funny though that like my wife would say, she said right. And I says, yeah, no, I just like to hear her talk. But it's like, not, but it adjusts all the time, right?
Yeah, all
It
the
says,
time.
oh, okay, so you made a mistake. Here's your new coordinates. Here's your next step. Here's your next turn. And I think, for me, again, looking back from 2022, my most enjoyable year, saying yes includes saying yes more to my intuition and my wisdom.
Hmm. trusting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, I love where this conversation is going in terms of New Year's resolutions because, like I said, I had resistance. when you mentioned this, I was like, oh, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions like that. They never work,
Well,
right?
it's like I've had people say, well, it's like, okay, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to start to do, kind of a thing. And I said, okay, so what's the purpose of going to the gym? Well, I need to whatever, right? And I said, well, are you doing any exercise right now? And no. Okay, so what do you think buying this machine or going to the gym is going to change? Right? Well, I need the motivation. So how is that going to be the motivation? Right? And
Hmm.
they realize after they've spent, a certain amount of money that it wasn't the machine, it wasn't going to the gym, right? It really centers on your mindset, right? So if you want a healthy lifestyle, or if you want, you have to be. It's not the do have to become. It's you have to be that first, and then everything
Hmm.
else seems to fall into place.
But also really be clear on what motivates me. What is the ultimate, like, like really work on that piece of clarity and the
Clarity.
motivation, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what do
because
you
when we
want?
do have motivation, when we're moved by something that we really care about, we do the things that, if you have to lose weight just to lose weight, that's not enough motivation, right? You
No.
really have to get in touch with, well, what would that make do for my life? How would it enhance my life? What would it look like? What would it feel like? Now we're talking, right? But if you don't go through that thought process, the motivation to lose weight just to lose weight is not motivating. It's annoying.
So,
Feels like sacrifice, right? I'm giving up all the foods that I love eating, right?
well, and you
Versus,
don't have to, and that's what
yeah.
I love about this. There's a new weight loss program, Gnome, I think, and they work more on mindsets, right?
Hmm.
And it's really about intuitive eating. Knowing when you full, when you feel full, you're full, right? Stop.
Hmm.
Well, wait a minute, the plate's not empty. That's just a belief system that you have to empty the plate.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
it's those kind of things. But what you were pointing to about the questions, I'll just give myself a little bit of a plug. If you go to my website for Hats Coaching, and if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, um, a little sign up thing comes up, and then you can just put in your first name and your email address, and I will send you the. I forget the psychologist that came up with the idea, but it basically says, okay, um, say you want to lose that weight, you actually put it on the top line, and then you read the question over and over again. So, what would losing weight do for you, right?
Hmm.
And it would say, if I lost the weight, I would feel better about myself. Okay, so what else? Kind of a thing. Well, if I lost the weight, I'd feel more comfortable in my clothes. And you keep going down and further, and you really get to the root of the motivation that you're pointing to,
Hmm.
right?
It's kind
It
of like
isn't
the
about losing weight.
five whys. Well, why would that be
There's five
important to
whys.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. This one actually
it's,
goes about 10 deep, but it
yeah.
really is about getting down to the root, because it's never about losing weight.
It's not about the weight that you lose. It's about how is, like, what's underneath that, and
Yeah,
how is that going to enhance your life and
yeah.
make you happier, right? Because that's ultimately, right. We're all like striving for happiness, but putting a lot of effort into it without really knowing.
Oh, and
Without really knowing what motivates us to put all this effort into it, right? And where we're going.
if it feels like a lot of struggle, and like this isn't working, then it's probably a good chance that it's not working, right? And again,
Absolutely, I'm recognizing it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, if anybody's listening, and I'm interested, what they feel about what would make their enjoyable uh, 2022. When you project yourself 12 months in advance, and I know some people are going to watch this on a recording too, and we both love to hear comments after after the live show, and enjoy people that pop in. But put yourself 1 year ahead of yourself, right? And you know, and just reflect back on, I just had the most enjoyable year. I just had the most enjoyable year. So so tell me, what happened? What happened last year that made it so enjoyable?
And just really be, let yourself dream big, like, have,
Whatever
like,
comes
go
up.
go for
Whatever.
it,
Yeah.
don't limit yourself,
Yeah.
like by your own analytical mind to stay confined with the limits of what's possible for you, right? Make it
Absolutely.
impossible. I would
Yeah.
say, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, I
Oh,
do
here
this
we
every
go.
time.
The big reveal. The big reveal. Oh, look, a
It's
ring light.
it's not a very big reveal tonight, but it just gives me it feels airier for some
Oh,
reason. But yeah, I would say allow yourself to dream big. Like, don't worry about, is this possible for me? Don't worry about where you're at today. Worry about what will make it really enjoyable.
yeah.
Allow yourself to dream that big, because if you never do, you're never gonna get there, right?
And you know what I discovered in my 12-month projection is that I found joy in the ordinary.
It's true. Yeah.
It was just the things that were sort of like took for granted. It's like, you know, I've even even washing the dishes seemed pretty good, kind of a thing, right? Finding joy in the ordinary, you know.
Mhm. I mean, I have to say that, yeah, I got a little perspective. We're going back full circle, right? Just really
Mm.
realizing that, to me, when you say ordinary, I see that as my routines, right? The
Yep.
things that I have to do every day.
Yep.
And when those routines that sometimes annoy me, right? I work out 5 days a week. I work out a lot, and it's not always a really hard workout. Sometimes it's just,
Yep.
yoga, or, right? But so I'm not always super like excited or jumping up and down to go to the gym, right? And I still do it because I know it's really good for myself. So I see those things as ordinary. And when those ordinary things were taken away in a sense by the me being ill, having to lay in bed, I was like, I really miss my routine. I miss
Hmm.
my everyday, I miss like being able to like empty, you're talking about, washing dishes, having an empty sink as soon as it fills up. I don't like things laying around, but they were laying around because I
Yep.
allowed myself to not be on top of things the way I normally am. I was like, I kind of miss that. I kind of miss being able to just pick things up as, or whatever it was, the ordinary, like you're
Yeah.
pointing to.
Well, it's like the Harry Chapin had a song called "A Yellow Taxi," you know, and one of the lines was, we pave this parking lot. You don't know what you got till it's gone. And that's so real. For me, it's got a lot of relativity in it, in the sense that we take so much for granted of what's going on until it disappears on us.
Until it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And then
always,
it's like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, and so there is a lot of joy in the ordinary, because it is part of.
and that's where the practice of gratitude is
Yes.
so important, right? Because when we don't practice gratitude, all those little things that we do have, they get lost in the ordinary. They get
Totally.
lost in like that tendency that we have to automate things, right? So we don't have to think about them.
Yeah.
But when you practice gratitude, you're really like stopping yourself and reflecting on all the things that you have. And oftentimes, even if you do it every day, you discover that there's so much more that your mind allows you to believe that you do have, right? In the ordinary way of thinking, your mind doesn't really allow you to stop and think about what you do have. It really focuses on what you're trying to get, what you're trying to
Absolutely.
create, what you haven't
Absolutely.
done yet, right?
Yeah. So if you want to have a more enjoyable year, it's part of that is being grateful for whatever's,
Yeah. What
occurring
are
in the
you
moment.
grateful for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was I was more grateful. I sensed that. I'm just I'm playing with the idea of being 12 months in the future. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's already in on itself is kind of showing you the process of gratitude. When you project yourself into the future, you're thinking about all the things that you would like to have and what you would like to have done. Gratitude is that in reverse, right? What do I
totally.
already have, right? What are the
Yeah,
things that make my life better that I feel grateful for?
yeah.
So it's putting you in the same exact state of mind for something that you already have. Guess what? Now you don't even have to struggle to get it.
No,
You
no,
already
isn't
have it.
that the truth? You already got it. This is
Yeah.
it. You've got everything you ever wanted right now and needed right now, right? It's that daily, for me, it's like the daily bread, right? It's sort of like this is this is what I've got. Like, the experience I have is this is the experience. Um, you know, I'm
Yeah, so I
thankful.
would say, just think about this plan in the future. See if you've already done this process, if it aligns, how you would like to change it. Consider all the things that you already have, right? Gratitude.
Mhm.
And whatever you decide that you want to implement, really, really stay true to this concept of like one step at a time, right?
Totally.
And stick to the one step. Just take the step.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how much you have to do. Don't worry about all the things that are on your list and how
Yeah.
far that impossible vision has gone, right? Just take the one step. And then the next day, take the next step,
Yeah.
right? And just worry about that step because when we do make these resolutions and these plans, they overwhelm us because
Totally.
people jam it all in January,
Yeah.
right? They put all their like dirty to-do list, things they haven't done in like a lifetime
Yeah.
often, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
1 month. And then they're completely frozen. They don't even get started, or they don't have that motivational piece in place,
Yeah.
right? So set yourself up for success. Get a really great, clear picture of where you want to go, clear picture of what you already have. Break it down into steps and take the tiniest step that you can. You don't have to get it all done in January.
No. No. And this the question that we have on the screen is a great starting point. If you're into journaling and things like that, like put that on the top of a blank page, right?
Mhm.
And just, put yourself December 2022, and you've just experienced the most enjoyable year ever. And like Fatih says, like what happened? Like, just use your imagination, whatever's flowing through your mind, on the pen, in the paper, right? What happened, right? Just whatever it is, what what did you do? What is different from today to 2022? Like, what, like, and put it down on paper, and then you know what, put it away.
Put it
Put it away
away,
for
but do think big. No one's coming after you. No
oh,
one's suing
no
you
one's
if you
gonna
don't
correct
do
your
it.
work.
No
Yeah.
one's gonna like be
Oh,
like you're not qualified for this.
you're not qualified for this. That's right. Oh, silly, silly. Be more realistic, like
Yeah,
whatever comes up.
it's just for you, and that's the thing. It's just for you. Allow yourself to dream big because you are only gonna go as far as your dreams go.
And that is true. That is very, very true. There's nothing more I can add about that. There's nothing more
Yeah.
there. It's only what our thinking makes it so, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely, absolutely. And you set your intention, you shoot for the moon, and ultimately you always land in the stars, right?
You may land in Mars.
You
So
absolutely,
what's so
who
bad
knows?
about that,
Hey,
right?
wait a
Or
minute, I didn't
Venus.
plan this, but that's what I love about it. Like, like if I reflect, like we talked about this before, like if, when we were first chatting about a year ago, did you ever think that a year ago, now, like reflecting back, that we would be doing a talk show together? Not a clue. Never.
No.
Right? How?
However,
Okay.
I did think it would have been a good idea, like really shortly after we met.
Oh,
I was
did
like,
you?
oh, yeah, I told you this, but
Did
you
you?
were
Okay.
not
Well,
ready to hear me.
phew, I have this landing strip that just kind of goes boom. You know, I just go
Yeah.
flying up.
I was
But
like, these conversations are really powerful. We should
yeah,
record them. And listen, and I want to clarify something. Obviously, they're a little different when it's just the two of us, right? Because there's some coaching going on sometimes. There's some stuff
yeah,
that's part of our very personal life that we're
yeah.
not necessarily going to talk about here.
No,
But I think you and I are the same people, and like we kind of bounce things off on each other like this.
yeah,
And it's never like we're never like sitting there coaching each other properly,
no,
but we are just masterminding together like this,
very much so.
and which is a really powerful aspect of it. So
Yeah, and 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 that's another thing. Like uh, there's so many little pearls here, but to find somebody that you do trust, that doesn't judge you, over your ideas or whatever, right? That is more there in a supportive way to saying, well, why not? Like who's to say, right? Like that the universe would single you out to be the role model for victimhood or whatever, right? Who's to say
mhm.
that, right? you know um yeah, so let's just go for it. So, man, oh man, 2022 is just around the corner, isn't it?
It's around the corner, and I made it. I got this COVID thing over with.
Tick tick.
Freedom, and that's the thing, right? And I would just just to end this COVID conversation, because obviously we started it at the beginning. If you do get it, which a lot of people are getting it right now, really
Yes,
be kind to yourself,
yes,
and just kind of look at what you are experiencing, rather than just like getting wrapped up into the news and the fear and the emotional aspect of it. And if you do get it and you're fortunate enough, like I was, to just go through it like a regular cold or whatever, you're done with this thing, at least for 3 months.
yeah,
There's some peace of mind in that for me. I'm like, you know what, I feel like I can walk around like a free person now. So there you can always find something that's working for you in any situation, right? I know no one willingly goes out there to take it. I mean, some people may, but I didn't willingly go there and try and catch this thing. It happened.
it
And what
happens.
can I do? Like, I'm just gonna experience it and see what did I learn from it. Did it feel that way? No, it didn't feel that way. I was really, really angry for a minute, right? So yeah, so I just wanted to say that, because I think the timing of it with what's going on in the world is, it's a little bittersweet, because we all felt like we were gonna have this brand new opportunity,
Absolutely,
uh,
absolutely.
to
Yeah,
see our relatives, to travel, to have a semi-normal year, and then this thing came in again, and
yeah.
probably re-traumatized a little bit some people. I know it
Well, I
re-traumatized
think there's
me.
a lot of is that whole piece about expectations, right? There's a lot of
Hmm.
people are totally disappointed, like like almost feeling cheated about it.
Yeah,
Because we were,
I
in
did.
some ways, we were led to believe that if we did all the right things, and we have all done the right things, many of us have done the right things, and it just seems so disappointing. But you're absolutely correct in the sense, that okay, well, now what? Now what? I've got it. Now what? Right?
I'm just gonna lay low and figure something out with these, like, 10 days of quarantine by myself.
Oh, I know. I know. I know. I know.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm glad to see you have come. You're still got a little bit of lingering things. I
a
can't
little
believe it.
bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just coffee still taste weird? Is this?
Ooh, it's so weird because I didn't really have loss of taste or anything, but I didn't feel like eating that much, and like
Yeah,
I didn't have a coffee until yesterday, and I was like, ugh, it was so bitter. It just tasted a little different. This
wow.
morning was a little better, but still,
Yeah,
I wasn't like, oh yeah, my
yeah,
coffee.
yeah. Your
Was not
coffee.
enjoying it at all. And the only other time this happened to me was when I was pregnant with my son.
Oh,
But like
okay.
I couldn't even smell coffee. I'm
Yeah.
not pregnant, but
Okay. Yeah.
like, yeah.
Let's just qualify that
But
here, right here.
yes, let's just clarify that. But yeah, so that's a little bit like, I was like, oh yeah, this coffee doesn't really taste the same and
Mm.
whatever. And I had a friend that made a funny joke. He's like, are you gonna go to a crowded bar tonight? I'm like, yeah, I may be the only one there. But yes, I
Yes,
could.
you could. Yes, you could. Oh, that's great. Well, Fatih, you have the most wonderful New Year's. Um,
Thank you.
and
You
stay
too.
well, my friend. Yes, it's going to be quiet probably. We had a wonderful family little get together with some of the with the kids, and yeah. So I think next year. You also reminded me, and I know we didn't touch on it, but how important it is to keep the family right and the contact piece, right? And
Yes. Yeah, we didn't touch upon that. And I think we should touch upon that piece because yeah, somehow it didn't come up in this conversation, but it had come up before we got on the air.
yeah,
Another instance in which my children taught me something really important.
yeah,
And I think that is something worth touching upon because what the things that matter to them are not the things that matter to us,
no,
right? Ultimately, they're so much more present than we are. And what they really care about is the love, the contact with you,
that's all that
that's
matters.
that's what
Yeah,
matters to them.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
we can just say it briefly because we may not come back to this. The whole point around this was the fact that I had to distance from my children to keep them safe, and the fact that we couldn't get close to each other was very hard for them. And this was emphasized for me even more so when they ended up catching it, and they were very happy to have COVID because now they could hug and kiss mommy.
Yeah,
So that gave me a hugely different perspective, right?
yeah,
Of what really, really matters to them wasn't about the fear of catching the illness. They understood, and I want to pride myself in
yeah,
in having created that kind of awareness for them instead of like making them fearful of it, right? Like they're careful, but they understood that nothing was going to happen to them,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And also really it was just like a reminder, like what really mattered to them, what really was difficult for them in those few 5 days of quarantine. It was the fact that they couldn't have share the love in the ways that we normally do and get
yeah,
close to me or see their dad, and that was what mattered to them more than not catching the
yeah,
virus.
yeah,
So it was a beautiful moment of insight, again, led by my daughter and my son. They were jumping up and down, but she
yeah,
was way more like, she was like, yay, celebrating. And
yeah,
he was still putting it together. He's a little bit older. Like he
yeah,
was
yeah,
rationalizing it. So it's okay if I take my mask off now and I kiss you, like he was still rational. And she's jumping up and down, like, yay, I can kiss you, right?
oh, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's what makes the world go round. And when it's
That
not
is what
there,
makes the world go around. So
yeah,
true. There's so much more in touch with the really, really basic, most important things
oh, totally.
in
Yeah,
life.
we learn so much from, and
Yeah.
maybe that's another subject. I often say that to my daughters, especially with my youngest, who's got our youngest grandkids, is that you can watch them, learn from them. They're because they are so pure in what they do. They don't have the contaminated thinking.
You know,
So maybe we've got another subject for the new year. But
we
we'll see.
do. We have so many. Rick,
I know.
I have full confidence that you and I will never run out of subject topics or things to say.
Yeah. All right. So that being said, Happy New Year to everybody
You too.
that's
Happy New
listening,
Year.
and we will we'll see you. It sounds weird. Eh? We'll see you next year.
See you in 2022, and do share your resolutions. Do share your great plan.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. Give it a name.
Yeah.
Give it your own name.
We love to hear it, and we will actually write back too if you do. So there you go. Anyways, ciao.
Bye, everyone. Ciao.